Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. We are Carly and Julia's Soul Twins. We certainly hope that everybody watching this video had a happy and peaceful Christmas. I can't believe Christmas has come and gone already. And for those people that watch our channels normally, you would probably recognize our guest over there at the other end of the screen. It's Sherri Divband. She's an intuitive energy healer, author, and of course, founder of the Aramis Creative Learning Center. Hi, Sherri. How's it going today?
Hi, it's nice to see you two again.
You too,
Great to see
Sherri.
you. I know we spoke briefly off air, but how was your Christmas?
Oh, it was nice. We had family visit and it was unseasonably cold here in Florida. Maybe we brought the cold from Maryland. I don't know, but it was, in the 30s and 40s for a couple of days, like on the lows, the highs in the 50s. And like I was such a baby, I was freezing to death and I was like, where's the sun? But we got through it and now it's back to like 78, 80. So we survived. But we had a good time. I took time off work and we've just been hanging out and just enjoying the puppy. She's getting so big. She just manhandles the big dog and like jumps on him and bites his neck and like she's she's like a little alpha female. It's so cute, but they love each other and he just lets her take his toys and she's a lot of fun. She's a lot of fun to play with. So yeah, we've been just hanging out and we got them both little presents for Christmas and they each got them and they were wrapped just little toys and like they didn't know what to do with them, so they were looking at me like, am I allowed to open this? Like what do you want me to do with it? It was so cute. But they opened it and they tore up the wrapping paper everywhere, but it was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's so cute. And did the cat get a present as well?
He's he runs away from all of the noise and stuff, so I knew he wouldn't participate, but he has a cat tree, so he likes to sit from the tree and he just sat there perched and like watched over. Cats like to be up high, so he just watched us.
Just observing.
Yeah. just having a really cool attitude as cats do.
That was your obviously first Christmas in Florida, so that's been a really exciting thing for you this year, Sherri, moving down there and getting everything sort of underway as best we can. And obviously the goal for 2023 is to have a physical center there. We're just looking forward to the progression and get everything moving. So today we wanted to talk about a couple of topics that we touched on last interview and just go a little bit deeper on a couple of them and then move into some other topics that we feel are really, pressing to talk about at this point as we move into 2023. There's a lot of energies going on as we always talk about. It's been a really tough time, I think, of late for a lot of people. There's a lot of things coming to the surface and for people individually, and there's a lot to deal with. And we will cover a lot of different topics to help people navigate this time right now and to see the bigger picture as well as we move into this new cycle. So yeah,
and whatever we don't get through today, obviously we'll cover off another chat because there's always so much to talk about with you, Sherri. And as Julie said, we're here to help people navigate through this. And we're just saying off air, there's we're still going, and I think people really want to see evidence of things happening out there in the world, just to give the collective an incentive. And obviously whilst we don't talk a lot about political stuff on these channels, we still are very aware of what's going on, and we want to do what we can, obviously, to help contribute, get people through, and show what we're doing in terms of creating as well, of course, with the Aramis Learning Center.
And I think also one of the biggest themes is this sort of breaking point for people. Individually, people are going through these breaking points, but they lead to the breakthroughs. And I think as people get to the breaking points within themselves and in their sort of smaller groups and communities, we're going to see that happening on a larger scale. So I feel like that's really where the momentum comes from for what people have been wanting to see out there in the world. So we're facing all these things individually right now, and that's going to be the catalyst because it all sort of starts within. So I think that's when we'll start to see everything shift, and that should hopefully come soon because people are being pushed. That's for sure.
That's right. Okay, so as Julia said, we were going to touch on revisit a couple of the topics that we started on last time. And one of those topics was the concept of woke versus awake, or the woke movement versus the those that are awake. Yeah, I know it's a hot topic for you, Sherri. We talked about this a little bit off air. A few different people are talking about these things, but it has been permeating and it's become very, very noticeable, especially in the past couple of years, a lot of these agendas. So let's start there, because it was just last time, I think it was just a topic that kind of just came in just without even, we weren't even prepared to talk about that particular point, but it came into the conversation. So let's start there, Sherri, and let's get your thoughts on that. And I guess, there's a lot of crossover with the two sides of things. Why is it so confusing for people? Why has it been structured like that, in your opinion?
Yeah, there's a lot of directions that we can go with it, but I think it stems back to, what's the agenda behind certain movements. And so if you look at the spiritual community, there are two different movements within the spiritual community, even if you take it back one step further, where we have the New Age community, and then we have truly just the spiritual community. And the spiritual community has been derived for centuries based on people who are just spiritual beings that believe in being a good person, that believe that their soul is vast, and we have many lifetimes, and we have a light body and a higher purpose, a higher consciousness, and there's more to this world than what we can actually see. And I think that that's just the foundation of it. But I think that the nefarious controllers let's just call them that, they created this notion, they always want to get ahead. If they see that we're onto something that's going to be helpful for us, they try to get ahead of it by making it bigger, but within a narrative that they're in control of. So with the new age community, they were able to control or shift the narrative with undertones of deceit and ego and egocentric control mechanisms. And they did that very, very carefully so that it went undetected. So now years later, we have all these people that have followed this new age community, and they were misled and misguided and taken advantage of. Now we have this woke community, which is exactly the same, parallel to spirituality versus New Age, with awake versus woke. And so, awake is essentially spiritual. So you're a spiritual being, you're awake to the world, awake to the notion of what this reality entails and how we're multidimensional beings, that there is so much more to this universe than we can see and sense, and that we are vast beings of light with a higher consciousness and wisdom, way beyond these intellectual brains have the capacity to showcase. Woke community, which is the darker agenda, where they thought that they could get ahead of it by creating these different realities under the woke notion, that really has misled and misguided our youth, because they target the youth. So they start with the youth, and it shifts up the trajectory of the age groups, the different demographics and the different age groups. So we have this woke community that are following all of these ideals under the guise of being awake, but it's completely false. It's a false narrative. And there's so many examples that we can give, but it's misguiding our children and our youth. And, especially, it's affecting all the age groups. I have a 17-year-old son who's about to be an adult in this reality's eyes, and he is going out into the world after he graduates his senior year this year, and he's trying to figure out who he is in this woke world, because it's quite confusing for them. They're still, and I think my son gave me this statistic that almost 90%, something crazy, I don't remember exactly the number, but it's greater than 80%. So let's just say greater than 80% of the kids, of the youth in his schools, not just here in Florida, but also in Maryland. So we have two states to compare it to. These children are gender confused, almost 80%. They don't know who they are. They don't know what gender to identify with. So far beyond that now they're bringing in cats and felines and other animals into it, and they're identifying as felines, asking for and demanding for litter boxes in the schools, wearing tails on their back, going to school, asking to change their names, speaking in cat language and all of this. I mean, it's absolutely absurd. So it's taken this idea or this notion of being awake to the world to completely taking them from their soul and their soul's essence to this other narrative that's completely false. It's confusing. And the children don't know who they are, what they're supposed to do, if they're supposed to work, who and what adults that they're trying to, who they should listen to, because part of the woke agenda is not to listen to the adults anymore, that they know everything that they need to know. So they should go against all parental control. Money is looked at differently. Their sense of self and well-being and health and wellness is completely off kilter. So they're basically attacking all qualities that make us a human being and altering that so that the youth and the children have absolutely no moral compass anymore and no idea of who they are. And once your foundation is crumbled and it's rocky and you don't have a sturdy ground anymore, there's so much more easily more vulnerable to manipulation and control. So that's a very simplistic way of looking at it, but there's so many directions we can go with that.
Obviously, Julie and I don't have children at this point, but I can't imagine, how difficult it is for parents in this position right now. And we've heard some horror stories of what goes on in schools and that sort of thing. And you just sort of think, is that really happening? Are they exaggerating? Like, is it really that bad? I mean, obviously, to be in school right now for children that, are not sort of fundamentally taken in by all these things. I know that Julie and I we've always been aware of things going on, even as little children. But there's a lot of kids that aren't. They get taken away very easily, and it's so challenging these days because obviously not just in person at schools and things like that with the peer pressure and all those kinds of things. It's the social media now, which is really totally changed the landscape of when we were at school, obviously, and you're at school, Sherri, as well. And it's completely different. I mean, it was hard enough then, let alone how it is now. So it's coming at us from so many different angles. And like you said, we could go on many different tangents with this.
When you said the manipulation, most definitely, and it kind of comes through so subtly. I feel like there's so many things that people can miss with this woke thing because they paint it out as like everyone can be free. You can be free to do anything. It's freedom. It's all about this freedom thing within yourself. Be whatever you want to be. Be a cat, be a dog. It's all this type of bizarre thing. Yeah. And people misinterpret that not on purpose, but it's just how they've painted it out for people. So, and it's also, it comes in many different forms. And there's just a lot of confusion in general, isn't there? Still even with what you're watching online, there's confusion on all different levels. And it's because they have made us very unstable, like you said, in our foundation. So then you are more easily guided in different directions that you wouldn't necessarily go down. So,
you're right about the social media too. Like that's a really tricky and also intimate way that they can get to our children where they haven't been able to do with previous generations. So, I didn't have an iPhone when I was a child. We played outside until it was dark, and we played in the sewer system, and we got on our bikes, and we didn't come home until dark. And that's just how it was. I was telling my husband the other night, I found my old house when I was in Florida. Interestingly, when I was 4th and 5th grade, I lived in Florida for a brief period in Orlando on one of those apps, just for fun, just to see, because sometimes it's fun to reminisce. And I was telling him we used to go on the canoe and go onto this island we were on a big lake, and like we weren't thinking about falling in and swimming with alligators or going to the other side on the island and not having any food to eat or being cold or whatever. And being bored, like we just did it, and like we didn't think about it like that because we didn't know anything else. These children now, I tell my children, ride your bike down the street, and they're like, "No, Mom, you come with me." And I'm like, "Are you like the reality is just completely different?" And I'm like, "Go have fun, go be a kid, go find rocks and bring them back and put them in your pocket." You know what I mean? Like now it's just like it's instant gratification, and everything is instant, and it's all on the phone, it's on the tablets, on the computer. And it's flashing lights, and it's everything is right now. I need to have it right now. and they prey on these children, and it's all about materialistic items. They have to have these all of these things, and watch these people open these things, like these episodes where these children have all of this stuff, and they have all these toys, and then what happens? Your child says, "Oh, mommy, I want that. This kid has it. Let's go out and get that." And it's constant, like, revolving door of I want, and they don't need any of that stuff. So this agenda with these children is, I want it. I want everything I have. I mean, there's a song, I think Ariana Grande has a song, I want it, I've got it, whatever, something like that. And that's what they're teaching these children, this freedom with no boundaries, with no responsibility. And it's misguiding them. And it's really disconcerting, especially for me as a parent, because I'm about to send my child out into the work world. He's trying to figure out what he wants to do. And it's so misconstrued right now that I almost wish he could stay in school and just be a kid a little bit longer, because I don't even want him to deal with that right now, because there's so many misconceptions. And I feel like it's upside down world. And what they're trying to push on our children is the exact opposite in every way of what they should be learning and what they should be focusing their attention on. And it has nothing to do with spirituality. They are ripping the children away from the family notion. So suddenly now it's cool to have divorced families and blended families. How many movies do they have where it's like, it's a cool thing? And like, I'm not knocking those. I mean, I'm a product of a teen mom, never married my dad. I had a stepdad at some point. That didn't work out. You know, like, am I going to brag about that to my friends and say, oh, look, I'm so cool because I had that happen to me? No, like, that must have been really horrible for my mom. Like, let's think about that instead of making it seem like it's such a cool thing. And that's what these children are seeing. Oh, it's cool. They divorce parties and this and that. And they're taking away the family unit, and they're taking away all of the values, the core values that these children should be having, or we should as a human being. And they are belittling it, and they are mocking it, and they are making a joke out of just about everything. And that's what the woke agenda is about. Everything they're making fun of everything. And yes, we do need to make change, but see, that's where the awake community comes in. We recognize the need for change, but how can we do this in a very respectful, compassionate, kind way that helps, it benefits all in a positive trajectory? That's what the awake community does. But the woke community, it's like, let's burn it down, let's make a mess, and let's destroy, and let's hate, anarchy, yes, all of these things. And then all you're creating is chaos with no direction, nothing to stand on, no stability. And it's really messing with the generation that is the most important, because they're the ones that are the leaders that are going to carry us forward in the future. And that's why they're targeting them, because they think if they can get to them, they're much more easily susceptible to AI and technology, let's just say, taking over, and they'll be okay with that because they're easily targeted with all the trinkets, so they'll be easily controlled later.
This has been going on with media for hundreds and hundreds of years, but also in fashion as well. Obviously there are certain things that filter through fashion, and that's been happening for a long time as well. And these are things that have been permeating throughout many decades. But then also you've got the celebrities as well, and they're obviously they're just the puppets. We don't even know that the situations that actually revolve around these celebrities. I was talking to Julie about it the other day, and I was like, they make it look like, oh yeah, they've got these rich fancy lives, but we honestly don't really know what goes on in that kind of world. Like, we don't know to what degree they're controlled. They might just be treated like absolute prisoners, and you've got to say this and do this, and we don't know. So, but they
don't even have all that stuff.
They don't even have all that stuff.
It could literally be like a media projection of this is what you have to have, but they're just controlled. Like you said,
puppets in a sense.
Yeah.
Not all of them. I mean, obviously some of them are, probably take different roads, or they haven't, there's a couple of celebrities out there like your Britneys and people like that obviously, had some more struggles, I guess, with the control and that sort of thing, or that's how it's perceived in the media anyhow. But obviously celebrities have a lot to sort of, be responsible for, or that whole movement of that, because that's what people always are aspiring to. And, one of the things I've been saying for a while now to Julia as well is, even if we just had a reveal in regards to celebrities being involved in certain, I'll say, rings, even if we had some reveals in regards to things like that, that would help to start break down those narratives, and people wouldn't be looking at those people anymore as much. Obviously, it's going to take time to break down, but you put something like that on the 6 o'clock news, and people, what they're like with the news, they just believe it. It's whatever's there. So just if we start seeing some things like that, and I know that people out there watching this video, this is what we want to be seeing. If it's not the breakdown of the financial system yet, and it's not the reveals of all of this yet, then let's start breaking down some of this celebrity pop culture icons, fashion, music, all these kinds of things, because that's around us. You can't help it. You just can't help but have it around you. So many different roads we could go down with this combo. But
and another thing you touched on there, Sherri, was values. And I feel like this year, 2022, if you're watching this in 2023, has definitely been about a re-identification of our values and a breaking down of what we do believe in. So if people have been taking note of what we've been talking about in videos and understanding the subtleties about themselves and working with those subtle energies, they can actually break through this. And that's why we encourage all the time to be in nature, to do breath work, to do, like you always talk about, Sherri, the deep breathing and the visualization of the golden light and, these positive affirmations, but particularly being in nature is going to help you. It's so simple. It's going to help you become more natural in regards to yourself and simplify. And of course we need technology and all these things are really great, but in a balance, and people have to find what that is again. Yeah. And it really is starting from within. We talked about that so many times this last year. And yes, getting back to nature, because that is going to make you more natural to you, and that's where you find your freedom, not through a controlled manipulative program. So it is very confusing, but it's not if you come back to those basic points of just being alive. So that's what we're encouraging. And that's why, Sherri, you've begun the Aramis Learning Center, and why we want to create this, because that's what that will be based in. So yeah,
very different to what's going on out there in the schooling system that you were describing, Sherri. Yeah. This is why you are obviously so passionate about giving children and people, adults as well, a platform to learn these principles and learn these values that we've been speaking about. So important, and we'll keep saying it. We'll keep banging the same drum, obviously, until we get there, and encourage people to support this. Support what we're doing here.
One thing before we move on, because I think I just want to make sure that after I said all that, some clues that people can have moving forward when recognizing awake versus woke, because I think it's important, especially parents listening to this, or even just adults that don't have children and that are just navigating through the same waters all of us are. Awake is really all about empowerment. It's about self-reflection, and it's encouraging people to think for themselves. It's encouraging people to ground, to connect, to educate themselves, and to not follow the narrative of everyone else. Woke seemingly is all of that, but in actuality, if you look at it, it's more about following a narrative, almost like a cult. It's like a cult following this, and if you don't align with these views, then you are then you are bad, or you're not helping to move things forward, and you're not woke, and then suddenly it's a bad thing. And they're very closed-minded, they're very argumentative, and it's following this narrative of that has to be this way, and there's no empowerment involved. If anything, it's very limiting, and there's a clear difference between the two if you really stop to think about which one of them have core values and which one doesn't. Which one empowers you and teaches you to align with your own vision and what's in your best interest versus what all of your friends are doing and what the cool thing today is. Because the thing about being woke is they change it all the time. One week it might be this, and then suddenly they shift it to something else. They do that on purpose because they don't want you to become complacent in one area. They need to keep changing you so that they can somehow convince you to shift your values whenever they need to suit their narrative. Where if you're an awake person, that's not going to work on you, because one, you don't care what other people think. Two, you are very aligned with your own North Compass, or whatever you want to call that. And you know right from wrong, and you can't be persuaded through ego, through material things. Yeah. So if you see your child or yourself on the fence in these two notions, these two realities, those are easy ways for you to kind of discern which side that you're on. No one wants to be in a cult. No one wants to be controlled. No one wants to be programmed. So being awake is the opposite of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does all come back to control, doesn't it? It really is all about controlling people in these ways. So people have to be aware of it and then do something about it.
Yeah, you do have to be, I guess, careful though, because that they do, you know, the dark group, or whatever you want to call them, the evil people controlling things, they want, and they, as we said, they do it through celebrities, or they use celebrities as vehicles for this. And one person that came to mind just when you were speaking used the word empowerment. And there's one celebrity, Victoria Beckham. She constantly, Julie and I have noticed this in interviews, she will always say this: I'm all about empowering women. She always says this one line all the time. She really says nothing else in an interview, apart from how great David Beckham is, her husband. But this is one thing she always says. So, you know, she's putting that out there, and she's making it seem as if she's empowering women. But really all she's doing is, you know, she's got a fashion line, which obviously I don't think it makes any profits whatsoever. She encourages, you know, women to dress quite masculinely. Like, her fashion line is always very masculine inspired. She's, you know, got a very materialistic lifestyle. She never smiles, she never looks happy, and she's got, you know, all these things going on. So these are the things that confuse people. They've got these people saying, oh, I'm all about empowering. Many celebrities do this. I'm just giving an example because, you know, it's one thing that frustrates us, but got to be careful of you know, looking through, you know, what are the real feelings you get when you're listening to these people? Is it frustrating you? Do you think, well, that looks like a bit of a load of crap, really, with what you're saying? Because it's, you know, very contrasting to actually empowering people. It's actually doing the opposite. It's making people feel very inferior, actually. So these are the kinds of things that are going on out there, which I'm sure you know about, Sherri. It was just one example.
But we wanted to touch on quickly before we move to some newer topics. Last time we talked about destiny, and we spoke about how it was really following your passion as we move out of the matrix, you know, the control of that. And we then thought about, okay, then let's talk about fate and fate versus destiny, and what is the difference?
Yeah, well, again, I think our dictionary, or our words that we use here, is can be quite ambiguous, and I think a lot of words mean the same thing, but then there are a lot of variations to them that make them different. So it's quite confusing. So destiny is our soul's journey. You know, what is our soul's purpose? Why did we come? The blueprints. Like I always use the example or the metaphor, you know, the chapters of your book. It's all, we have this outline. We have this beautifully illustrated kind of dialogue of your life. Which is your destiny. You know, what's my destiny? I believe now, and I think I've changed my mind a million times based on how old I have been and where I've been in my life. But I can truly say in my 40s now, my destiny is Aramis, and I don't mean my daughter Aramis, but the Aramis Learning Centers. And I think that that's the destiny that I will leave behind when I leave this body and this time in this reality at some point, whenever that may be. That was my destiny. Now, I probably had along the way, my destiny included many other variables and elements to it, just like anyone else. So it's not just one vast thing. But that's our destiny. That is not ever changing. It really is one or two or very few things put together as one. But then we have that free will element, which allows us the opportunity to make choices and take the paths that we want to take within that blueprint that can make things go faster or slower or harder or easier. It all depends. That's our free will. Our fate is almost like, if you think about it, the breadcrumbs of our blueprint. So like, what is our fate? What is the fate telling? What is our fate telling us? How do we get to our destiny? How do we fulfill our destiny based on our choices and free will? That's our fate. Our fate is what brings us, it's the catalyst. So when someone says, "Oh, Carly and Julius, they're destined to work with Aramis Creative Learning Center, and their fate is to do many great things for children." Do you see the difference?
Yeah.
You know, and then that's why people say, your what's another good analogy that I was telling a mother the other day about her daughter and her legacy coming here was to work on terraforming, some version of terraforming the Earth's surface. And I didn't understand it. I still quite don't understand it, to be honest with you, but she's from Venus, and I think her purpose here is to help terraform, and that's her destiny. And her fate will allow that destiny to occur based on her particular free will and her choices along the way. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you for clearing that up, because that was one of the topics that we've seen sort of flying around, and we quite often, will refer to destiny and that sort of thing within our own conversations. So just one other topic that came out of last conversation. Remember how we spoke about the animals circling in different parts of the world, and that phenomenon that's going on right now. And I know a few other people have touched on it in their videos as well. So it's obviously a hot topic right now. We did have a question from a viewer. Her name was Charlene, and she had mentioned that her child was quite often doing these, or having these episodes of spinning. Like they were constantly spinning and making this kind of spinning sort of sensation, acting this out. And, she was just one example of this. Do you know if there is any correlation between animals, doing what they're doing with this circling phenomenon, and perhaps children, obviously more of the, empathetic, spiritual kind of, sensitive kind of natured children? Is there any correlation between maybe why, say, this particular child, I'm sure there's other examples as well, of children behaving in a certain way, just like the animals are?
Yes, the answer to that is yes. And the reason for that is similar to how I explained with the animals. The animals recognize the energy shifting, and sometimes they're channeling that energy, just like we have chakras that channel the energy from the light body to the physical body. There's instances where the animals are circling, they are creating energy portals like the chakras in relation to us. And they are the spinning wheel of energy, opening up portals, channeling energy, balancing energy. And so children that come in that are high frequency, oftentimes unfortunately labeled, I'll just leave it at that. They are, when they circle, and I've actually seen it myself. I've seen children do this behavior. And I've had many parents ask me about it. No one's ever asked me in an interview before, so this is interesting to talk about it publicly. So perhaps this can help parents out there listening to this that they've seen it with their children. And it's the exact same thing. So they have this high frequency energy coming in, whether it's their energy and they're trying to channel it and balance it out, because it's too much charged energy for the physical body. So sometimes our bodies can't withstand the energy that we are bringing forward. So there's two things happening here. So in that case, our body we have to channel it somehow, which is why. So have you guys ever seen, like, okay, this is a pivot of an example, like an animal, and this happens all the time with the cats and the dogs. At sometimes when they get these bursts of energy at random times during the day, and they charge, running back and forth, jumping on the couch, going all crazy in the house, like they're just like, and you're like, what is their deal? They get surges of energy and they have to get it out. Children do this as well, toddlers, where they all of a sudden they're just sitting there and they just get, like, clearly visibly they get this burst of energy, and they like go like this, or like they they look like they're having the shakes or something, but in reality they're just channeling a lot of energy that comes through. Dobermans happen to have something called idiopathic shaking. There's different terms for it, but basically what happens is they start shaking for no reason, this particular breed. So it's usually head shaking, so they're like kind of shaking back. It's not a seizure, but it's like a seizure. And I did a lot of research on it because my Doberman got it when he was a puppy, and I didn't have a lot of experience with that. And I had to consult the spiritual, my spiritual community, because the veterinary community just doesn't really have an explanation. They have theories. none of which to me made a whole lot of sense in my dog's case. And what I was getting was they get energy surges too, and especially breeds that are working breeds where they are so charged all the time with being on guard. They're high alert. They get a lot of energy, and a lot of it has to do with their neurological brain, because they're thinking, they're on guard all the time, they're protecting. And sometimes they get so much energy, there's so much electrical charge that their body doesn't know what to do with it. So they start shaking it out. So our body has a way of channeling energy when there are surges. But when you're looking at the animals, in the case of circling, the collective circling where there's large groups, it really has less to do about the particular animal and more to do about the environmental energy that they are channeling and opening up portals and helping the Mother Earth channel her own energy around, as the energy is coming from inner earth to outer and vice versa, going back and forth. But I believe that the children tap into that and can also tap into the environmental energy and can circle for that reason. So there's a lot of different elements to it. There's no one way to answer any of these questions, because they're so multidimensional. And I think that's what's really difficult for some people who are very analytical left brain to grasp. I talk or other people talk, because they're like, this doesn't make sense. How can you have so many different answers to one question? Well, because we're multidimensional beings in a quantum reality that's becoming more quantum as we go from third density to fifth density, that we are opening ourselves up to much more than we could see before and feel before. So in reality, we do have a lot of possibilities for the same thing, or a lot of reasons for the same things to occur.
It's interesting, talking about the animals, I just thought I'd slip this in. And we've actually had a lot of dragonflies where we live here in this particular state of Australia. I'm not too sure if it's happening in other parts of Australia as well, but with hundreds, Sherri, just hundreds of dragonflies around. It's like a plague of them. So obviously, one part of your brain goes to, oh, is this nefarious if they let a whole bunch of, sort of dragonflies and insects and bugs. I mean, Australia is very big with bugs, I will say that, and creepy crawlies. But this is different. This is, over the past year or so, I think it's sort of been a concentration of dragonflies. Other people have noticed it here. Do you know what the dragonfly might represent in large quantities, Sherri? Is there any meaning that we can give to this of a positive nature?
Yeah, I love that you brought this up, because we had dragonflies in Maryland, but not that many. So when I moved to Florida, I noticed there are dragonflies everywhere, all over the place. And in my backyard, we have a covered porch. A lot of Florida houses have covered porches because of the mosquitoes and also gators and things like that. So I remember sitting in the porch area looking up one day, and we have a preserve behind our house, so it's a huge forest. And I was looking up, and I'm not kidding you, there was probably 100 dragonflies above the house. And I was like, do you guys see this? Like, I've never seen anything like this before. Like, this is crazy. These are dragonflies. And they were like, it wasn't butterflies, it was dragonflies. And it got me thinking, and I started seeing more and more bushes with dozens and dozens of dragonflies everywhere. And I was like, is this a Florida thing, or is this like some weird anomaly? And I started talking to more people that live here, and they're like, no, it's normal to see them, but like not this many. So I said, okay, there must be some universal sign that they're bringing to us, because the animals talk to us. And what I was getting, and I've never talked about this because no one ever asked me, not that they would, because I didn't tell anybody about it, but so what I was getting was that, dragonflies, much like hummingbirds and dragonflies, which no one's ever asked me why I chose the hummingbird for the Aramis logo, but that's a whole other thing. But many of these winged insects and birds and things like that, they are high frequency. They have a lot of energy channeling through. There's a lot of movement, and they represent transformation. They represent change. They ever change. So it's all about evolution and constant shifting of energy and realigning with your environment. And I believe that these dragonflies, particularly the ones that I saw, were here to remind people to be open to change. Because I think that that's a lot of what they're here to guide us with during this ascension, because we're so stuck in our footing of, oh, well, it's always been this way. But in reality, we need to break ourselves of that programming. And similarly, I keep seeing turtles everywhere, which turtles are normal. But the other day, my husband opened the garage, and he was like, "Oh my God, everybody come." I was like, "Oh my God, what is it? A cockroach?" Because like the way he said it sounded scary. I was like, "What is it?" Because there's bugs here too. And in Florida, they have these flying cockroaches. I mean, you want to like scare the bejesus out of Sherri, like bring her near a cockroach that flies. Like, stop it. I'm such a baby. But anyways, he was like, "No, come look at it." It was a turtle, like this big. It was huge. And it was trying to like come in the house. And I was like, "What is this turtle doing? Like, where'd you come from?" And I was running. And so I picked it up, put it in the wheelbarrow, and we took it to the lake down the street. And I was running a couple of weeks before that, and there was a turtle in the street. And I was like, "Oh my God, this turtle's going to get run over." So I picked the turtle up and I ran it across the street to the lake. And so that got me thinking the other day about the turtle. I'm like, what are the turtles trying to tell me? And then somebody posted on their Facebook, a friend of mine posted something of, oh no, Kimberly Palm posted, a friend of mine posted about turtles and a dream she had. And then another friend of mine responded and said, "Oh, there's a tortoise in front of my house." And then I was like, "Oh my God, I had this." And I talked about the turtle, and I said, "Okay, something is up with the turtles. What are the turtles trying to tell us?" So again, I listened, and they were talking about how ancient they are, just like the trees, and they have so much wisdom. And they're trying to teach us to tap into our innate knowing and our innate wisdom, that we have the answers that we need. So if we have the turtles telling us to tap into our innate wisdom, and we have the knowledge that we need, if we just tap into our higher consciousness, we know the truth, our own truth, not the truth that we're seeking through podcasts and books and movies and all of this. And then we have the dragonflies and the hummingbirds teaching us about transformation and change and evolution. I mean, how beautiful, just those two combined, but think about all the other animals trying to give us messages as well. That's just two examples. So I love the animal messages because they're so clear and concise, but so impactful.
Those animals are very prehistoric as well. Like the turtle is very prehistoric, and the dragonflies also have that element about them as well. So I don't know if that means anything, but it's obviously, evolution is obviously a very big part of this, as you said. Sorry.
Yeah, it all and like you said, it all just comes back to nature, and you can just step outside, or an animal appears like a turtle, in your house, and you can get so many messages from that. So hopefully this helps people recognize that more, and the explanation, Sherri, was very useful, I think, and people can tap into that energy. And you'll talk about the energy with the circling and everything as well. And I think as we move into 2023, even more people are going to become more aware of their energy and how they can use it, and just fine tune the ways that they can utilize their energy in better ways. And I wanted to just quickly touch on another topic, Sherri, that you wanted to talk about, which was balancing out energy, but balancing out masculine and feminine energies. Did you want to speak into that a little bit?
Yes, this is important to talk about, and I'm glad you reminded me, because this is a message that I was getting like pre-pandemic. This is a while ago. So this was before anything that we're talking about right now had occurred. Any talk, like big talk about ascension, all of that. I was doing sessions with adults mainly at this time, and I kept getting messages about balancing the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and how part of the control, nefarious timeline, whatever you want to call it, the powers that were part of their scheme, pre-woke, pre-new age, was to identify roles very strictly. Is that a word? Very strict. So we have severe masculine men, and then we have very feminine women. And that's the narrative that was played out for a very long time. So, the men are the hunters, and they care for the family, and they work and this and that, and then women are beautiful and they take care of the home or whatever. Like a very clear defined role that separates them. And what they were telling me is that we are changing those norms into this notion of balance. So these poor men who are told from the time that they're young boys, you know, men don't cry, toughen up, be tough, you know, like they completely program or deprogram them of their feminine side out of them. So they're very emotionless, very, you know, astute, you know, very strong. And they unfortunately raise their sons and so on. So there are all these generations of these strong men with no feminine side. And then conversely, we have the women who are raised by their mothers to be very feminine. What they were telling me is that the men need to tap into their feminine side and the women need to tap into their masculine side. So it's not this sexist thing. It's not this women power, men suck, and not this men power, women are awful. Not that at all. It's about honoring who we are, but both versions of ourselves. Because it doesn't matter if we're female or male, we still have that other part of that other aspect, that other energetic aspect of ourself. Just doing an interview with Dr. Dan earlier, and we were talking about that. You know, the Arcturians are more androgynous. They don't see gender. They can tap into both. And I think that they're encouraging us to do the same, not because of the transgender movement. I'm not talking about any of that, or non-binary, nothing. It's a woman being an authentic woman, but being able to tap into her masculine energy as well, so that there's a balance. And a man who is a man tapping into his feminine side. If you are a man that's homosexual or a woman, that has nothing to do with it. Like, that's completely separate. So I'm not discounting nor judging that. I'm just talking about in a traditional sense, us having the ability, because even if you're a male homosexual, for example, you tend to have more feminine energy, but what they're saying is even them can tap into the masculine side. So regardless of your sexual orientation, where you're from, how much money you have, whatever, it's having the ability to tap into both energetic sides of yourself so that you're more at balance. So we can get away from these gender roles that were nefariously designed, so that when we move forward to a better earth, you know, where we're moving in this ascension, recognize and have the ability to tap into different layers of ourself when needed.
I think maybe part of the difficulty in losing the programming, I suppose, around, you know, a man having to be just very like masculine and they can't tap into their feminine energy, for example, or vice versa, a woman being very, very, very feminine and not being able to tap into any of their strength and their masculine side in certain situations. I think maybe part of that is because if you maybe step into that, it's like you're maybe losing part of the part of yourself, and that's where the balance comes in. So maybe what are some ways that you would suggest people to start that process if they're, you know, maybe much more leaning to one extreme in themselves? How do they start to find that balance and also not feel like they're kind of losing, I guess, because people identify a lot with that, don't they? Whatever they have, whatever they're more inclined to identify with, they're going to hold on to that more strongly. So how did they start to bring that balance in more? Is it an acceptance of just the moment and just accepting of and grounding in the moment?
Yeah, I think it sounds more grand and more bigger than it actually is. And I think that throws people off because they think they need to change who they are. And you don't need to change who you are at all. But it's about honoring how you feel, your authentic self in the moment, in every present moment, for whatever experience you're having, without the filter of what you have been programmed to believe the way you should act because you're a female. So if you're a male and you get hurt, recognizing that it is okay to cry. Maybe you don't cry in front of the room, but maybe you go in your private space and you allow yourself to feel that emotion and let it out through crying, let's say. Or for a woman, not feeling like they need to put themselves all together and not show any emotion, and then also feeling like they can't cry because they don't want to be judged. So honoring how they feel in that moment, however it's authentic to them. You know, my daughter, Aramis, she's a very challenging person, but she's having to navigate through emotions. So unfortunately for me and for her, me coaching her breath work does not work. it doesn't work with her, and it's not going to work with everybody. She is a physical being. So when she gets angry, what makes her feel better is if she can scream, like we're at home, like scream it out, she'll get into a pillow and she'll scream as loud, or she wants to physically, she has to do something with her body. I'm like, you can't hit your brother, but you can hit the pillow. You know what I mean? So some people, they have other ways to get it out that's not going to look so beautiful as a woman, and you might feel judged for it. But the idea is allowing yourself to authentically and organically navigate through emotional challenges and circumstances, but also recognizing that there are boundaries, and you can't just act any way you want in public, right? But in the overall essence of being a human being, it's about honoring your reaction and your emotions without the labels, without the filter, and that takes practice. But over time, the more authentic you are to yourself, and not worrying about, oh, well, my mom told me I can't do this, this is wrong. Saying, no, actually, this is how I'm going to do it, and do it. And forgiving yourself and honoring yourself for that. So it's a process just like anything else. It's not an easy thing to do. And you might need, one circumstance, you react a certain way and you're like, yeah, that felt good. And then the next, your programming creeps in and then you do the exact opposite, and you go back, you fall into old patterns, and you say, oh, it's okay. You recognize that time you weren't able to pull that authentic part of you through. And you recognize that, and you say, it's okay. Next time I'm going to try better. And you just work with yourself, and you give yourself the time, the space, and the patience to do that, because it's not an easy thing.
And I think it is practice, like you said, and also maybe not worrying so much about the complexity of how it sounds or the labels attached to it, just more so being yourself as much as possible, or what feels good to you. What feels like the right decision for you in that moment, rather than what you previously did, what someone told you to do. And little by little, if you take those steps, you are just going to have that masculine, feminine energy balance anyway. And I think we've noticed that more recently as well, just with certain things. You might go, oh, actually, I'm going to say that instead of this, and that feels more authentic, so I'm going to do it that way. So yeah, it's just coming back to that natural state of being. And that is going to undo the programming bit by bit, like you said.
One more important element to that, because I think we need to be really clear with people, because I don't want to confuse anyone. It's not about mastering the 50-50. There's a pendulum in this. So, you don't need to be 50-50 masculine, feminine all the time. Most of us tend to be more one than the other, most of the time, and that's okay. It's about having the ability to tap into that masculine and or feminine side when you need to. That's it. That's all they're saying. My daughter has helped me with that. So my daughter came into my life and showed me what a princess warrior truly is. And she taught me that you can be a tough girl, but also be beautiful and also be feminine. And that's a lesson that I needed to learn, because I didn't feel that way. To be tough, you needed to show you're tough, and you couldn't be both. She taught me that. So I think it's okay to be more one or the other, but it's about a balance and the ability to tap into that other side of yourself when you need it. And that's really what it's about. So I'm not telling everybody, oh, you have to be an exact balance of masculine and feminine energy. What they're trying to tell us is just have the ability to tap into it when necessary, so that in a situation that would require a more feminine energy, you have the ability to call on that instead of it being foreign to you and you not knowing that side of yourself at all, or vice versa, calling in the masculine in the event you need to have that energy. And if you've never done it before, or you're not comfortable with it, it would be really challenging to call that masculine side. And so I just want to make sure that that's clear, because that might be confusing to some people. And it's really more about a give and take. It's a pendulum, and it can shift every day, moment to moment, depending on what you're experiencing in your life. And that's also okay.
I think that's a really good point, Sherri. I think that would clear it up for people. You needing to respond in the moment. So then it comes back to that being more fluid and being more in the flow of the moment, rather than being so strict on how to run your life from your past, I suppose. So yeah, flowing within the moment so that more magical things can come in and you can respond accordingly, how you need to. I did want to touch on a little bit of balancing out in regards to, I know we talk about empaths a lot, And I wanted to just touch back on that because I think I read a comment on maybe our video on your channel, and I just wanted to revisit that quickly. And also talk a little bit about narcissistic behavior, because we have a lot of people writing to us that are struggling with this kind of thing, and those ends of the spectrums attract each other. And I guess I just wanted to touch on that for people, and how they can sort of start to navigate the balancing out a little bit better of that, and where their boundaries actually are. What's out of balance then for a narcissist? Is it the heart chakra? Because they can be a lot more selfish and they don't empathize with people.
Yeah, for for a narcissist or even sociopaths, psychopaths, all of them, they have a general lack of empathy. And for whatever reason, their shadow side is more dominant. And so they are very egocentric. They're very materialistic. It's all about them. And so they have this lack of empathy for other people. It's all about me, me, me. And so when they don't have, when they have lack of empathy and compassion, yes, it affects the heart chakra, but really the heart, the throat, with your ability to speak your truth in a way that's kind, and your third eye and your crown. So like you just mentioned, it's the exact opposite. So those that tend to be more egocentric tend to have the upper chakras that are blocked or are not, there's not an appropriate amount of energy coming through, because the narcissists are not going to be connected to that part of themselves, the higher consciousness, but they are connected to the root chakra. They're and I'm not saying they're grounded in a good way, but they're grounded into this 3D. They're very comfortable here. They are, they know how things work, and they are stable in themselves, in the energy that they place themselves in. They are secure in themselves. They are arrogant. They are confident, but not the good kind of confident. And so they're very, if there is such a way to articulate, they're more balanced on the lower chakras, the more primal. Whereas an empath, and I think that defines me and my struggle, and probably you as well. For the most part, I'm more open on the crown and the third eye, very connected to source, my higher self. I have a lot of empathy, very sensitive person, open heart for the most part now, maybe not before. But the areas that I struggle are going to be my sense of self-worth, my sense of stability, security, feeling worthy or accepted, and that's going to be my lower chakras. So a lot of empaths tend to have the most issues, physical issues, with their digestive system or their stomach aches, bloating, irritable bowel, Crohn's disease, stuff like that, that's affecting, and of course women's issues, stuff that's affecting our uterus, because those are the core chakras, those lower chakras. We're not as primal. We're more connected to our light body and the astral realm and our spirituality. So we lack the comfort and the stability, the balance of the lower primal chakras. And that's why I'm constantly telling people, because I do it, ground, ground, ground. Because instead of attracting that narcissist that can fill that void that you're lacking, we don't want that. We want somebody that's in alignment with you. So what we and I do to work on that is to work on those lower chakras on our own, separate of a romantic relationship, through grounding, and many various things that we've already talked about in a bunch of other shows, to help facilitate a balance of all of the chakras within ourselves. So we are empowering ourselves, taking control of our growth, as opposed to attracting a mate. That sounds so barbaric, a relationship or a companion, or even a friendship, even friends that are non-romantic, that are going to be the opposite of what you are, because you're almost putting out into the universe, I'm attracting this because that's what I'm lacking, because that's not what we want. And that's what we have done previously for generations and lifetimes.
Yes, it's like you're seeking that on the outside because it's something that you're lacking within. And with practice and fulfilling those things within you, it really does start to shift what's around you. That like you said, the grounding and understanding that those lower chakras do need attention, and you can have those things within you. You can find those things within yourself and find the security, find the the self-worth, the I'm an abundant person, these types of things are going to ground all of that. So for all the empaths out there, again, hopefully that's useful. Do you think at some point in the near future, Sherri, that there'll be a balancing out of these kind of labels and the empath, the narcissist, and that will balance out more? Or do you think it's just a very individual journey?
I mean, I think the answer to that is yes for both. I think that it will balance out, but I also think it is an individual journey, which means that we're all going at our own speed in our own time frame, and we're all having these spontaneous awakenings. And I think that the one of the problems that we have is that we're constantly looking to our neighbor, our friend, our spouse, or parent, sibling, whatever, to see, like, to compare their experience with our own, all the while missing the signs that we're also having one. It's just in a different way. So the spiritual awakening can look different to anybody, and it has various ways of occurring. And we are continuously trying to, oh, Sherri's was this way, so mine needs to be that way. No, that's not true. It's different for everybody. And there are a lot of catalysts. And sometimes people have these huge, grandiose awakenings, and it all happens in one fell swoop, and it's a big thing. And then other people have a bunch of little things that occur that lead up to something bigger. But there's no rule book. There's nothing to define, because there's no such thing as right or wrong, because it is a spiritual journey that's individual and unique to everybody watching this, everyone alive, whether they're watching this or not. So I think it will change, but it also is a unique journey. And I think part of this nefarious third density that we find ourselves in, with all of the noise and all of the chaos and all of the programming and manipulation through the food, the air we breathe, the electromagnetic frequencies, through the disconcerting music that they have us listen to, that's disrupting everything within us and disharmonizing us, to the misrepresentation of our relationships with one another, the lack of boundaries, respect, all of that. When you lump all of that together, that's what we're navigating through. It's almost like, imagine human beings walking through water all the time. It's very challenging. It's very dense, and it's not fun. There's too many things blocking us and preventing us from being free. Imagine removing yourself out and suddenly becoming an eagle, and you can fly. How freeing that must feel. And that's where I believe that we're going from one to the other. But it's just taking a little bit of time. We need to recognize that we have to have love for ourselves in this journey. And I think we forget that. We're so busy, not we, but many are so busy pointing the fingers at everyone else and what they're doing that's wrong, and why they're not right, and all the mistakes that they're making. And I think the true theme of what we're going through right now as a collective, but also individually, is finding our own way and recognizing our own mistakes, having accountability for things that we've done, and things that we've done to hurt other people in the past, and things that we've done to set ourselves back, and writing all of that by first forgiving ourselves, because we should forgive ourselves for not knowing better, forgive ourselves for whatever reasons we have, and then giving ourselves love again. We have to start loving ourselves before anything else can heal. Before we can love other people, we have to love ourselves genuinely. And until those people are empaths, like we talked about a couple minutes ago, recognize that and truly love themselves, they're going to continue to attract the narcissists that will continuously put them down and abuse them, because in their heart of hearts, they don't believe that they deserve anything better. And that's just not true. So we have to work on reprogramming ourselves out of that conditioning that we're not good enough, that we should look like this woman in the magazine or this man, and we're not ever good enough because we're constantly comparing ourselves to somebody else and what they're doing, instead of just reflecting on, what am I capable of doing? How can I change? How can I self-love? How can I love myself? How can I forgive myself? And then a whole new world awakens for you, and then suddenly you're that eagle flying, and you're like, wow, how did I get up here? And I think that that's what we're all striving to right now.
Yeah, the loving yourself is so important, isn't it?
That really ties in with the final question that we had today. And I wanted to touch on karmic closures. and contracts ending. And when you were talking just now, you were speaking about your self-love and that sort of thing. So yes, it's not just contracts with other people. It's not just maybe a contract with your job or your career or whatever you've been doing with yourself, for many, many years. But it's also about your own, how you feel about yourself. It's your own habits. It's your own patterns. Maybe these things are ending. Maybe these things are, you're closing out cycles of behavior, of your own behavior. So I just wanted to get your opinion, Sherri, on how much longer you see this kind of phase playing out for, because obviously, in regards to relationships and maybe even with jobs and money and all that sort of thing, a lot of this could be, of a spiritual nature. So it's coming back to past life kind of karmic closures. But there's also the other type of closures that are going on right now, in that we are seeing more of people's true colors. And when I say people's true colors, I also mean maybe it's the true colors in regards to what career you're in. Maybe it is in regards to how you looked at money, what music you listen to, your own personal habits. Maybe it is about, the love for yourself and allowing yourself to do the things you've always wanted to do. So it can look at it from many different angles. But we're definitely seeing a lot of this playing out right now. Do you, in your sort of opinion, and again, it's just your opinion, but we just wanted to get your thoughts on it. How much longer do you see this kind of phase playing out where, yes, you're just getting to see everything, warts and all for what it really is?
Yeah, I mean, this is a raw and very delicate period of time, because the issue is that whatever age anyone is watching this right now, they're discovering who they are at the core. And that is exciting, but also really scary at the same time, because if you really stop to think about what are my favorite things? What do I like to do? What truly makes me happy? What are the people that I want to surround me that are in alignment with that? And the thought of that causing the ripple effect that will occur once you open that can of worms and you recognize all the things that you've been doing for somebody else that didn't align with what you truly wanted. This self-discovery process right now of who we truly are without the expectation of everyone else is surreal, and I'm going through it as well at my age, trying to decide, like, do I like this, or is this something that I've been told to like because everyone else does, or do I do this because I want to do it, or am I this kind of mom because I saw it on TV? All of it. I mean, I am doing it in real time with everybody else, and it's scary sometimes because of what I see behind the veil of all of that. Sometimes is completely the opposite, and I have to unpack that, and I have to say, gosh, that wasn't me. But instead of feeling shameful about it, feeling rejuvenated and saying, wow, I want to explore this other side of me that has been hidden for so long out of fear of judgment, ridicule, not having any friends. Like, for whatever reason we did these things, we forgive ourselves for it, we recognize it, and then we explore it. And I think that that's really challenging for a lot of people, because it's like that Stockholm syndrome. Sometimes it's easier to be in the energy that you're in because the unknown is very scary. But I can assure almost anybody watching this, if you truly peeled back the layers of yourself and found your true essence, it won't be scary. And if anything, it will be the most enlightening, positive experience, because then that's what you focus on. That's the light that you focus on, and that is the light that's within you that I keep talking about. Everyone now always says, what do you mean by going within? That is what I mean. Going within and discovering who you truly are, without your husband, without your wife, without your siblings, without your friends, without your children. Who am I without my 3 kids and my husband? If I was suddenly alone, who am I without all of them? That thought, what do I truly love? What do I truly hate? What do I want to do with myself? What are the expectations that are lifting me up? And what are the expectations that are pulling me down? And that is a really challenging place to be in. But I think that that's all about what 4D is all about, to get us through as that catalyst of change, to evolve, transform, transmute, and then transform into the version of yourself that you've always wanted, and that's what the hummingbird represents. by the way, if anyone wants to know why I chose the hummingbird for the Aramis logo, that is exactly why. Everything I just said, that is why I chose that, because that was the most beautiful representation of what I just said. And I want that for the children. I want it to be ever changing. I want it to be evolving. I want it to be empowering. I want it to be beautiful, but also organic. I want that for the children, but I also want that for the world. And I also want that for myself. So I encourage people to dig deep within themselves and allow the hummingbird to help you find your way.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what we're all doing right now.
And I feel like talking about all of this for people does contribute so much. Well, I feel like it does, because when we do these chats, I definitely feel that coming through. And even if it's not in person, in a physical sense, talking in this way and the, even the vibration of the sound of what we're talking about coming from a heart-centered place is going to help people understand that so much more, have an awareness of all of this on such a deeper level. And that's how they're going to start to transform and how they're going to feel more confident to do that, because it also takes a lot of confidence to take action on things that are scary and make people feel fearful about. And yes, we've gone through many periods of quite a lot of loneliness in this patch of time, because it's a shedding of things that you don't really want to let go of, but you're being forced to because you have to. And otherwise, if you don't, you are going to be stuck in a position that you're never going to be able to evolve and really and truly tap into your greatest potential. And that's what we want for everyone as well. Everyone can be able to find that within themselves, because how amazing would the future and the world be with that kind of understanding of oneself and desire and just taking that step and that stepping out of that box, that box of fear, because that's what really does hold people in positions that aren't healthy for them and that aren't good for them. But if you navigate that period of loneliness, yeah, there's so much beauty on the other side of that.
It's not just loneliness, it's difficulties as well.
Yeah,
And I think over the past couple of years, we probably all thought, oh yeah, this is the lowest point. This is the lowest point. And then more challenges happen. You think, oh my gosh, how am I going to handle this? Because it's just compounding. You got all of this, and then you don't have these people anymore as crutches and distractions and all that sort of thing. And it's a difficult process. We're going through it. We're still going through it. And Julie and I, constantly trying to, I guess, help each other and navigate through it ourselves, just like you, Sherri, finding out who we are and finding out what we really want and what is our true purpose, in life. So I guess the answer to my question then is there is no specific time. It's just it's an individual thing. So once you pull those layers off and you find yourself and you remove those distractions, you see people for what they really are. You see their true colors and you go, okay, maybe they're not meant to be in my life anymore, or whatever it is. Maybe it's a job, maybe it's where you live, whatever. All of those things, all those layers come off, and then it's really up to you, I suppose, as to how quick you can move that along. But yes, totally understand. There's a lot of things that is slowing things down and making it more difficult for us to move forward individually. But there's a lot of energy, pushing things forward. It's just taking time to do that. So anyway, as always, Sherri, that's been a fantastic chat. And I know we go on and we never cover all the questions that we want to cover, but we would just say for anyone who's looking to book classes, online classes with the Aramis Creative Learning Center for January, they are now up on the website. So you can go to aramiscreativelearning.com for those classes. We have some fabulous classes again. A lot of them are quite new, actually. There's always a couple in there that are repeats or popular classes that we have. I know, Sherri, you don't like to use the word popular, but classes that people enjoy a lot. So we tend to pull those back a lot as well. There's some really good new ones as well. And also your t-shirts as well. You've got the t-shirts online that you're now selling through. Yes, it's on the website. And that's for kids and adults, right, Sherri?
Yep. There are kid sizes and then there are the adult sizes. And we've even, have sticker collections. We have backpacks, we have bags, like we're adding all this sorts. And we've been getting some of the samples here and they're so much fun. The kids are having a lot of fun with all of the samples. So
awesome. Yeah. So you can head over to, again, the website, Aramis Creative Learning website, but all of the details will be below this video as well, as they always are. So always check below if you want to find anything else about us or Sherri and how you can reach us. It's all there. And I will just say, obviously, with the big project that we're doing, we're still requiring, obviously, a large amount of funding for this project so that we can continue all of the online classes and all of the fantastic work that Sherri's doing and that we're doing behind the scenes, but also to build the physical center. So if you would like to make a donation, it would be greatly appreciated. You can head over to the Aramis Collective /donations if you would like to go ahead and make a donation there.
Now, Sherri, is there anything you wanted to end on? Any message that you wanted to add before we go?
I think the last message that I had was something that I wanted to close with. And so on top of that, I just want to thank everybody, obviously, for continuing to watch our chats and to continue for continuing to support Aramis Creative Learning Centers and donating and participating in the classes and sharing, spreading the word to your friends and family. So we are ever grateful for all of you and all of this continued support. We are working on, so we just published our, I don't even know what number it is, our latest Divinely Guided children's book, and it's called In the Forest. And I think it's mine and Cammie's new favorite. It's 2 videos and 2 animation videos in one book. So it's a long extended version of a book. It's 2 chapters and it's absolutely beautiful. Cammie's artwork is gorgeous. So please check that out. And we are working on a new animation video that I think is everyone I keep saying is my favorite, but this one is extra special. And we're going into dreams. And I think everyone's going to love this one. So that'll be probably published in the next few weeks. So look out for that as well. And thank you again. Your donations help support the books and the animation. And the children they absolutely love it. And so do the adults. I get emails all the time from adults saying, oh, I love your cartoons. I watch them too. So there's something in there for everybody. So I just wanted to make sure to bring that up. And thank you to everybody for your support.
You do learn so much from the cartoons, don't you?
You do. And those videos are featured on your YouTube channel. So just wanted to make sure that people, and maybe they are new to the channel, they can find it all on your channel, Sherri, there as well, in and amongst lots of other videos. This one. All right. Well, thank you so much, Sherri. It's always great catching up with you. And we look forward to the next chat already. Have a great new year. And we'll see you very soon.
Yeah. Everybody.
Bye.